It's been almost a year since I released the first part to this trilogy so far, taking a trip into the endless void of lost media. Specifically, films that have technically been finished and can be released, but something has stopped them in their tracks. We've covered 20 of these films so far, and today I have another 10 films that are completed that you will never see. Now, as with parts 1 and 2, anything can happen in the future, which can cause the film to finally be released somehow, or even leaked online. So keep that in mind. Also, check out parts 1 and 2 if you haven't already. And if you're watching this and thinking there's a film that belongs in a series like this, you should also go check those other two out, because you'll probably find them there. I'm going to leave them both linked down in the description, as well as in the corner of this video. Now let's get into it with one that everybody has been commenting on through both of the other videos, Coyote vs. Acme. Everyone in the comments was mentioning this one to me, and yes, of course I knew about it, as it is also another unfortunate victim of the Warner Brothers cancellation list. When they were trying to scrap plans to help their endeavor of writing off projects for tax breaks, other films had fallen to this peril as well, including Batgirl and Scoob 2. Coyote vs. Acme is a fully completed part live-action, part animated movie that was based on an actual article in a 1990 edition of The New Yorker. It would show Wile E. Coyote suing the Acme Corporation, the ones behind all of the products and the explosives he uses to try and catch the Roadrunner. Will Forte was meant to be the Coyote's lawyer, while John Cena was playing the Acme lawyer. It was also meant to see several characters of the Looney Tunes world make cameos throughout the story. And the reason I hadn't brought it up yet at this point is because I really was not certain of its true fate. In the grand scheme of things, when I was working on those first two videos, decisions hadn't been finalized yet. But by the end of February 2024, the release Coyote vs. Acme train had begun, and as of April 2024, the film is sitting there at Warner Brothers, and as they put it, it's available for acquisition. Unfortunately, it might never see the light of day, but we can still have hope. This next one is another one that is sort of sitting there, but I don't think this has the same amount of hope like Coyote vs. Acme. Filmmaker Tom Six might not be the most well-known director unless you have been exposed to his work. His career started in 2004, but his most notable work would be the Human Centipede Trilogy. The first sequence was released in 2009, the full sequence in 2011, and the final sequence in 2015. He wrote, directed, and produced all of these films through Six Entertainment, his own production company, with the help of IFC Midnight and IFC Films distributing the films on DVD and streaming. They are interesting body horror films to say the least, and have built a cult following for being gruesome, unique, and sometimes ridiculous.
Feed her! Feed her! Hard! Swallow it!
Six's style is not for everyone, and a perfect example of that is his most recent film, The Onania Club. Originally meant to release in 2017, it was delayed until 2019, and then 2019 came around and nothing happened. Six had stated, "Great art takes time," when he was questioned about the film. Then the official end date for production was in 2020. As of 2021, Six claimed the issue is finding a distributor. No one wants to touch this movie, which held true up until 2023, and there's been no word of it ever being seen by fans of his work. Not sure if it'll be worth it for those who appreciate his art, but to be frank, it's not surprising. I mean, how hard is it to believe that the guy who did the Human Centipede can't find distributors for his newest movie? Not everybody has that taste in that style of filming, but to each their own. Sometimes a lot of films are meant to be just pure representations of art. Like this next one, An Ambush of Ghosts. Shown at the Sundance Film Festival in 1993, the film was considered a masterpiece of the independent film world and received high praise from those who were fortunate enough to be there for that initial viewing. After that, it seemed to fall into distribution hell, and despite having an awesome cast and its high review marks, it's been left to linger as a film that feels kind of like a myth. You can only find a few accounts from those at the rare viewings, proving that it even exists to begin with. Other than that, The film itself is a ghost, and it's just lost in the ether of shelved films for one reason or another. There isn't anything for this other one either, Days of Wrath from 2008. Another film just sucked into the void of nowhere with very little to go off what happened exactly. Originally meant to release in 2008, there was no word of it until early 2014, where director and producer Celia Fox stated it would be released later that year, and then nothing happened. It stars Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Lawrence Fishburne, Wilmer Valderrama, Taye Diggs, and Rick Ross. What's even weirder is Celia Fox never did another movie after this. The film had two co-writers as well, Michael Marquis, who also never did anything ever again, and Michael Kapner, who helped write Into the Blue 2, and then Oz the Great and Powerful, and then he never did anything ever again. It's been over a decade and it's crazy that there is little to find about this movie. The IMDb page has 3 reviews, one from 2008 and one from 2009, both giving the film positive ratings for being a good movie. So if these are real, someone has definitely seen it. But then in 2022, a user writes, "Where is this movie?" Someone on Reddit said there was supposed to be a game developed for the film as well, but that has also vanished. Other comments on that post are statements from those apparently involved in the production, who state there was production mishaps and arguments over distribution. But it's Reddit, so it's really hard to tell if that's true or not. It could be anybody writing these things. Bottom line is this movie is a mystery, and speaking of mystery, this next one is sort of on the fence of never seen, as in there are probably a handful of those who have actually seen it, or can even get their hands on it. But all in all, it is extremely hard to find. Pocong, specifically the 2006 film that was banned basically everywhere for being too brutal and too graphic. The director was told to redo the film. That same year, he filmed Pocong 2, which is basically the exact same story, just less of the brutal horror and more of a comedy horror. But the first one was never given release or distribution, and only a few have gotten their hands on a copy of it. YouTuber The Artie Dans has a pretty solid review and explanation on the Pocong situation with footage from the actual film itself. I'll link his video in the corner of this one and also link it down in the description so you can check it out. It's very informative and it was very helpful for me since I can't really find anything else about this movie. And speaking of very little information, Boogie Town, written and directed by Chris Stokes, who also wrote and directed You Got Served, as well as being a music executive and owner of Tug Entertainment. Really? Stokes has one film on his record that is just sitting in limbo. Boogie Town is described as being a dance sci-fi romance, dubbed a modern-day West Side Story for the hip-hop generation, a retelling of the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet in a futuristic New York City where dance battles are prohibited. The dance community was patiently awaiting its release in 2009 until it was postponed until 2011. Then its official website disappeared, and there has been no new updates or talks of a release, or even a cancellation being announced. And Stokes continues to be an active director and producer. Dance movies are sort of my guilty pleasure, so I would totally love to see this one day, but it's a little unlikely that it'll get pulled out from under whatever rock it's been hiding under. Next up, New Jersey Turnpikes, a mockumentary-style film meant to be released in 1999, starring Kelsey Grammer, Jim Brown, and Orlando Jones. It was presented as the chronicalized final days of a failing basketball team, the New Jersey Turnpikes, considered to be the worst team in the league. The film was finished, cut, had marketing ready to go, and was running through its test screenings where the feedback was lackluster. Then someone brought it to the Tribeca Film Festival, where it was open for review from the public. However, Universal Pictures, who produced the film, did not like that it was screened at the festival, because they hadn't even decided on releasing it yet. So they shelved it completely. It's just sitting in a vault, untouched somewhere. The IMDb page has a review posted from 2015 with someone who claims to have worked on the film, who says basically the same thing, while adding that they had not paid for the licensing for some of the music used in the initial cut. So they also had to make decisions on whether to pay for the licensing or scrap the release. Well, we know what they picked, it's on this list, of course. It seems very similar to a 2008 film called Semi-Pro, which the Lost Media Wiki points out, but it's probably just a coincidence. Moving on to a collection of sorts, John Waters is a praised writer and director of films with huge cult followings, including Pink Flamingos, Cry Baby, Multiple Maniacs, and what most might not know is that he also wrote, directed, and produced Hairspray in 1988, which would then lead to the creation of the hit Broadway musical running since 2003, and that film that was adapted from the musical in 2007. The bulk of his fame and recognition comes from the 70s and his career moving forwards. But in the 60s, he was making more short films, and a lot of those can't really be seen by the public. Well, technically they can, but it's weird how they can. The few short films he has are pretty hard to find and can only be viewed at his art exhibits, which don't seem to happen much anymore. He started his career off with Hag in a Black Leather Jacket in 1964, which is 17 minutes long and cost $30 to make. It's a one-shot film, but that's because Waters didn't know how to edit at the time. The last time this was stated as being viewed was in 2014 as part of the 50 Years of John Waters retrospective at the Film Society of Lincoln Center in New York City. Then in 1966, he makes Roman Candles, which is 40 minutes long, but can only be viewed at his touring art shows. Then in 1968, the weirdest of them all, Eat Your Makeup, a story about a nanny who kidnaps children and forces them to dress up and model to death. Its first viewing was apparently in a church basement. What the hell? That's just a ridiculous piece of information. But like I said, none of these are available to the public, and you can only find them at these exhibits, but I really don't know if they're even still going on anymore. All in all, if you're not going to see one of those, you're probably never going to see any of these shorts. But let's keep it going with Killing Winston Jones, a dark comedy starring Richard Dreyfuss, Danny Glover, and John Heder. It was meant to be released in 2014, after it was announced as being finished in 2012, but it never came out. Most believe it's due to another cast member having some bigger issues behind the scenes. His connection to the film is eventually what led to its cancellation. Danny Masterson was also part of the cast, and he would have a huge lawsuit to deal with regarding several allegations of abusing and sexually assaulting women. However, all of that started in 2017, which led to the official cancellation of this movie and then shelving it from release. But that was 3 years after it was originally supposed to be released. So it's hard to say if the lawsuit had a real issue with whether or not the movie was going to come out, or if it was just the nail in the coffin. But either way, you're probably never going to see this film. As of 2023, Masterson was sentenced to life in prison, but started appealing the sentence in early 2024. And what a better story to segue into than this last one. After having years of power to silence those trying to speak up against him, the allegations of sexual assault against Bill Cosby came to a turning point in 2014 when comedian Hannibal Buress had a whole bit bringing it out into the light of what Cosby had been doing throughout his career.
Old black man public persona that I hate. This gets on TV. Pull your pants up, black people. I was on TV in the 80s. I can talk down to you because I had a successful sitcom. Yeah, it was great women, Bill Cosby, so kind of brings you down a couple notches. For the most part, it's fucking public Teflon image. I've done this bit on stage, and people don't believe, people think I'm making it up. I'm like, Bill Cosby, there's a lot of rape allegations. No, you do. That shit is upsetting. If you didn't know about it, trust me. When you leave here, Google Bill Cosby rape. It's not funny. This shit has more.
The difference here is that despite all of those others bringing it up and trying to get something done, and being handled by the power and the strings that Bill Cosby could pull, it seemed that once it was out there at this point, it was just thrown into the ether of the internet. People were able to find the public records of all the charges he was trying to hide for decades. No one was going to let him live it down. Cosby went into fight mode, but it would seem ill-fated as after a 3-year-long trial, Cosby was found guilty in 2018 and sentenced to up to 10 years of prison time. He would try to get it appealed, and it was officially overturned in 2021, but attorneys are still fighting to get it reversed again. Now, before all of this was happening, Cosby was working on a stand-up special for Netflix. It was meant to be his last stand-up special. It was meant to be released on July 17th, 2014, Bill Cosby's 77th birthday, and the title of the special was Bill Cosby 77. They delayed the release after the allegations came to light and moved to cancel it completely once it went to trial. Safe to say, nobody is ever gonna see the last Bill Cosby stand-up special. Now I've got a few honorable mentions, just a couple of bonus ones. Someone brought this up in the comments and I had never heard of it before, so when they brought it up and they explained it to me and I did a little digging, I found a movie that sort of seems to be lost in production limbo. As in, there's really nothing I can give you besides what I know so far. Apparently, Uma Thurman is meant to star in this film about Anita Bryant, an American singer and Christian activist who was a heavy supporter against gay rights in the 70s. So much so that she is a real-life opponent to Harvey Milk, which the 2008 film with Sean Penn is based on. That film is about the first openly gay politician and the story of his fight for gay rights in America. Apparently, they've been working on this film since 2013, yet it's not listed anywhere. All I can find is a few articles from 2013 about Thurman getting the part, and then this one from Variety in 2019 about how Ashley Judd and Neil Patrick Harris have joined the cast. Joined the cast? It's been 6 years, and they are still casting? This made it into the bonus section strictly because I don't know if it's finished or still being produced or if nothing's moving forward at all. I have no clue what to make of this movie, but if I have any updates, I'll toss in another video in the future. And last but not least, The Big Boss Part 2. Now this is a bonus simply because it was completed, then lost for decades. A sequel to the hit Bruce Lee action film from 1971. It was meant to release in 1976. There has only been one known copy of the fully completed film, which is owned by the Zambian Cinema in South Africa. They once released 10 minutes of the film on YouTube, then swore they would never let any more be seen. It wasn't until 2021 where a copy was leaked onto YouTube, running about 47 minutes long. The original print is over 100 minutes, so it's about half the film. Which is still more than anybody had seen at this point. We're talking 50 years so far. More recently, on June 25th, 2024, a Blu-ray collection was released called Bruceploitation: Game of Clones, a 14-disc box set that's said to contain the full copy of The Big Boss Part 2 for the first time ever. However, the description of the box set states the film is on disc 8 and it's 91 minutes long. The IMDb page for the film puts it at 119 minutes long, so it's hard to say which is right exactly, which is why this didn't end up on the main list, because I can't tell you for certain if you're ever going to see the fully completed version. I haven't found anything of someone who owns this box set, who has seen the movie, and can clarify it is the entire story as it was meant to be released. But like with Anita, if I find out more, I'll toss it up in a future video. Well, it's been a long time coming, but I'm glad to have another entry in the saga of this exploration into the world of missing films. There is still a lot that can be covered, but it is difficult to narrow down which films are worth looking into. If you have any suggestions for this topic, just leave them down in the comments, and I'll look into it, and if I see anything that's worthwhile, I might consider putting into another video. I'm not 100% certain if I'll be able to get another one done. I didn't 100% want to leave this as a trilogy, but I'm open to making more as long as I can find more stuff to talk about. This series is specifically talking about completed films. I have another one regarding films you almost didn't see, and I'm working on one regarding planned films that you'll probably never see. So there are certain niches when it comes to this topic, and I'm trying to keep them all on lists that they deserve to be on. If you made it this far in the video, thank you. I can assume you had fun watching this, and if you did, consider subscribing to the channel. Showing your support and helping the channel grow means the world to me. Check out the other videos in the studio as well. Liking this video too while you're here would be awesome. I appreciate you, and I hope you stick around. Cheers.